You know what? I want to start with the name Vegan Cobra, which is the name of your Instagram handle. What is the story behind that name?
Well, I like cobras and I've been vegan for a while. So yeah, I don't think a whole lot of thought when I do it. It's just
But
vegan cobra,
you don't talk about veganism all that much. At least I don't remember seeing anything lately.
I used to a lot. But yeah, I've been vegan for like the last 7 years and, I just don't enjoy debating with people and fighting with people online, um, like I used to. So for my own like peace of mind, I don't really talk about it much.
I'm sure a lot of people who like follow you for the first time ask you that. But I'm guessing most of the content is now like herpetology related,
Yeah.
like even the questions. All right. So, I think every wildlife person has one or two of those like come to Jesus moments. I think that's what they call it, where they realize their passion. I know I have. And so, like, what are some of those stories that and experiences that got you interested in wildlife?
I think I've been interested in wildlife since I was a kid. Like even at like 4 and 5, I was catching frogs and turtles and stuff. Yeah, I grew up in New York up till the age of like 10, and there's no like venomous snakes around where I live over there. So yeah, I was pretty comfortable catching most of the random wild animals that I found even then. And then when I moved back to India at like, yeah, the age of 10, now there's venomous snakes everywhere. So can't really go out and just catch whatever I want to catch. So yeah, I think like living here in Bangalore at that time, it was a lot more wild than it is now. And snakes used to often get into people's houses, and the response would most often be that people would kill the snake, right? I didn't like seeing that. So when I was old enough, around like 15, 16, I started like rescuing snakes and became the neighborhood snake rescue guy. And that started with a rat snake that was in my garage. And then, yeah, I knew it was a rat snake, so I picked it up and stuff. And everybody around me, my neighbors, my parents, everybody was freaking out, saying like, "Why are you handling a snake? What if it bites?" That rat snake actually did bite me. But yeah, I knew it was harmless, so nothing happened from that. And yeah, from then it's just been, you know, I went out and started looking for snakes, started practicing catching like non-venomous snakes, slowly moved on to venomous snakes, and yeah, got into snake rescue full time, got into herpetology, all of that.
I want to talk about these rescues. Like, can you tell us some of like your most memorable rescues for whatever reason, like some rescues that just stick in your mind?
Yeah, okay. So a lot of non-venomous snake rescues like checkered keelbacks, rat snakes in random places, people's inside the toilet and, on the roof sometimes. So like a lot of sketchy behavior, even with non-venomous snakes from an early age. But I think my first venomous snake rescue, which that's what like sticks in my mind, it was a cobra that was about like 4 feet long, and it was in a neighbor's bathroom, coiled around the sink faucet, like the tap. So apparently they went to wash their hands
All
in the
right.
morning. What's up?
Sorry, the internet is very bad. Just continue. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there was a cobra around the sink faucet inside a neighbor's bathroom, and they went to wash their hands in the morning after like going to the bathroom, and then they heard like a hiss. So then they're like, "Oh my God, there's a cobra!" And at that time, that was my first venomous snake. And what I seen on TV is people like pin the head of the snake with a hook and then grab the back of the head and then pick it up and do whatever. So I did that. Now I know that that's not great. Yeah, somehow managed to bag that snake without getting bit. And I did the same thing with most of the snakes that I found for like maybe a year or so until I realized that there's better ways to catch and handle snakes. Yeah.
About that first rescue, or even the first time you handled a snake. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I'm at university, so that's why the internet is. But I'll edit those parts out. But about the first rescue, I think a lot of us have sometimes like just by societal conditioning, we were taught that snakes are dangerous. And so, what made you go for like that first grab that you did for the rat snake? If I got that right in the garage.
I mean, you watch all these things on TV and they say don't replicate what I'm doing here, but that's pretty much what I did. There wasn't a lot of thought.
Are there, I mean, I can imagine, and this is one for the nerds, but you and I are snake people, so we'll get nerdy. What was one of the most unusual, like species wise, what was something you caught which you didn't expect? Like, I'm sure Russells, checkered, speckled cobra, rat snakes, like these are things you would expect in that landscape. But what is something that you didn't expect to see, or something that was very rare but you got as part of your rescue?
spotted rescues in Bangalore. I don't know. I think all the keelbacks, they used to be, I've heard that they used to be common. I've only ever seen like maybe 5 or 6 all the keelbacks ever. And when I got my first one, it was a rescue in someone's backyard. And that was really cool. That blew my mind. Again, like vine snakes, which are common for most people who herp, but in the city, vine snakes have pretty much disappeared. So yeah, I get happy every time I see like a snake that is just uncommon. Maybe it's a snake that I see all the time while herping in like forests and stuff, but around cities, they just don't exist. Like kukris in Bangalore, trinkets, vine snakes, even like wolf snakes are becoming rare nowadays.
I heard a story of someone who had to rescue a Malabar pit viper because it came in a shipment of, I think, banana or something. It had from somewhere in Shimoga, and so and they had to do it in Bangalore. So that was one of those unusual things. But okay, you mentioned herping. For the odd listener of this episode who doesn't know what herping is, could you break down what herping is? And I want to get into the details.
Herping is basically going out into natural habitats and searching for reptiles and amphibians and finding and observing them in a natural setting.
All right. So, and like say you and I are in Wayanad, for example, the rainforest. Where specifically do you look? So, like you go at night typically. That's at least how I have done it. And where are you looking? What are you looking for? What are you doing? What are you not doing? Like let's dive into that.
So the search method varies depending on what exactly you're looking for. So if I'm looking for vine snakes and cat snakes and bronzebacks, which all live in trees, I'd be searching at like eye level or higher in bushes and trees, looking for anything that kind of stands out. Like snakes are typically like lighter colored than the surrounding vegetation. If I'm looking for like Malabar pit vipers or other snakes, like Malabar pit vipers, I would look closer to the ground, maybe like right above the ground level on the stalks of like bushes or maybe near water sources around where like there's a lot of frogs and stuff. And yeah, if I'm looking for things that live on the ground, like wolf snakes or cricket snakes, I'm looking in the leaf litter, I'm looking on the ground, like for hump-nosed pit vipers and stuff. If I'm looking for sheer tails, I'm lifting rocks, looking underneath rocks, because those things live underground and they're going to be like under the rocks most of the time. So search method varies based on what you're looking for.
I know you've herped in the Western Ghats, in the Northeast and the Eastern Ghats, and even Thailand. I remember seeing all those photos. How is herping different in those landscapes, apart from the species? Is it different when you go to these different places?
Yeah, for sure. You need to really do your homework before going to a new place to figure out what methods work. Because, for example, in Arunachal, you can't really do that much on foot because the landscape is so steep and you can't really walk a stream because the streams are like this and they're overgrown with bushes and stuff. So if you want to find snakes, you have to like road cruise or walk along roads. Road cruising is the best method in the Northeast, I would say. There's, yeah, I mean, each place has a different method that works really well for finding snakes. Sometimes it might be flipping rocks. Sometimes it might be just walking a stream. Sometimes it might be walking higher up on like a ridge or just trails through the forest. Yeah.
I think these videos that you watch online, I know Fishing Garrett is one of the most famous ones. I think they sometimes at least they give me a very distorted view of like how often you see these creatures. And so I know you've herped in the US as well. So what landscapes, like if I'm going to ask you to rate them, okay, the frequency with which you see snakes, what landscape would you say has the most? And then we'll go down from there.
I'd say herping in the US is way, way easier than India. Example, in like Florida, you can just do anything, any method. You walk anywhere, you like drive a car down the road, you do anything, you're going to find snakes. Like it's that easy. In India, it's a little bit harder in different areas. I would say Arunachal is extremely hard. Sometimes you go like 3, 4 days without seeing a snake. You'll find other things, but and then like one day the conditions might be perfect and you might find like 5 snakes. So yeah.
No, and that is 5 like individuals, not 5 species.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Thailand, how is Thailand? And Thailand versus the Western Ghats.
Thailand is again very like each part is different. Around like Bangkok and stuff, you can easily rack up like 100, 200 snakes in like 3, 4 hours of like 4 or 5 species. And then once you get to South Thailand, maybe like the Malaysia border, there like snake diversity is super high. but snake density drops massively. So the way we were herping there is we had like a team of like 6 or 7 of us. All of us have walkie-talkies, and all of us like split up and go on different trails. We might be kilometers apart, and in a single night, which is like maybe 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. that we're herping, each person might encounter 2 snakes. So the entire group might get like 10 to 15 snakes in a night. So yeah, it's very, very different. And yeah, search effort and search method plays a very, very big role in what you find and how you find it. Yeah.
So, and now you have formally studied this as part of your masters, and I'm curious, like, what does an academic like engagement with these animals give you, which perhaps like an enthusiast doesn't have?
I think my like formal training in biology has really like helped, but a lot of the skills and a lot of things that I use now on a daily basis have not been things that I've learned in school. So they teach you the basics of like maybe taxonomy or, behavior and ecology and stuff, and how you apply that to actually herping or whatever it is I do right now. That's like far removed from what we were taught in school. But I think having a basic uh, foundation has really been helpful in everything that I do now.
How did you choose your like if I've done my research right, you did something on salamanders, right? Like that was your thesis. And so how did you choose your question? I can imagine that being quite hard, especially for someone who's interested in so many different types of herbs, right? Like what was that process like?
For me, choosing that particular project for my master's degree, which was at Kennesaw State University, and I was studying the mating systems of salamanders and more specifically like the genetics of these salamanders and how it relates to their breeding behavior and stuff. Um, so I wanted to gain some skills in genetics and lab work and some of these broader questions in ecology and herb research. So one of my friends became a professor and he was looking for students. So I was like, okay, this is a cool project that I can go and learn these skills and, get to work with somebody I already know. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And yeah, I mean, I learned a lot. It was awesome. But I think being in the field and doing things hands-on as opposed to lab work and data analysis and writing and stuff that's where my passion is. So that's why I've decided to come out from research as my main thing and do more of like just field-based stuff now.
Okay, so all right. So then let's talk about rescues. Could you walk us through what a typical like rescue looks like in that like what is the sequence of events and what do you do once you reach the rescue site?
Okay. So typically somebody has seen a snake and they're freaking out and maybe the snake is inside, maybe the snake is outside. Most of the time they don't know what snake it is. Sometimes they're able to identify it as a cobra or something like that. So they call a snake rescuer, who might be me. And first question I ask is, can you still see the snake? Where is it? Right? If the snake is outside in a garden or something like that, then I usually ask them to like from a safe distance go and get a photo of the snake. And what happens usually is they go out to the garden where the snake is. If it's a rat snake or something and it just sees the person approaching, the rat snake folds and it's gone. The snake has rescued itself. So I don't need to go. Um, but if it's a cobra or even a viper, it usually won't go very fast. So it's probably going to sit in one place. So I'll try to assess if the snake actually needs to be rescued. Are there people around who are like looking to kill it? Like, is the rescue actually required? And if the rescue is required, I ask them to keep an eye on the snake until such time I arrive. And yeah, now to actually catch the snake, the best method is the pipe and bag technique with a hook. So you set up like, you can use a bag, which is like a pillowcase, open on one side, close on the other side. And you put like a pipe, like a PVC pipe, or even a water bottle with like two sides cut off works fine too. You put that in the mouth of the thing and you set it up against like an edge, like the edge of a wall or something like that. And if it's a venomous snake, these days I avoid even touching the snake with my hands unless like the snake is absolutely requires me to catch it. So if there's a viper or something and I can just use the hook to move the snake closer to the opening of the pipe and it goes in by itself, perfect. Sometimes there's like burrows around, there's like, bushes and stuff, and a snake decides to bolt in that direction, in which case you have to catch the tail, you have to hook it and bring it closer to the pipe and bag to bag the snake.
And where do you release them, like the ones that you catch?
Well, I tell people I release them very, very far away for their peace of mind, but most of the time it ends up being just right around the corner, like outside somewhere within like a few 100 meters of where we caught it that looks pretty natural, sometimes into like a drain or something like that.
It's so that it doesn't disorient the snake, right? Like it does live in this particular home range. Do you think like do you use those opportunities? I'm sure you do in some ways to teach them about snakes. And so like what is the kind of reception you get from these folks? Like how do they receive this snake knowledge as it were?
Again, everybody is different. Everybody's like has a different approach, has different preconceived notions about snakes and stuff. But yeah, at each rescue, it's a really good idea to like talk a little bit about the snake, talk about why it's here. And if it's a harmless snake and you've actually caught it in your hand, maybe even let them touch a snake for the first time. It, goes a long way in terms of changing their perceptions and getting them over their fears. So yeah, there are some people who are very, very receptive and very keen to change and to learn. And once you tell them, oh, this is a rat snake, and like, even if that person has a rat snake in their house going forward, they'll just send me a photo on WhatsApp and be like, hey, this is a rat snake, right? I'll be like, yeah. They'll be like, okay, peace. So they don't need me to come and catch it. And they're chill with the snake being there. And there's some people who just absolutely hate snakes and want to kill every snake they see. Yeah, I mean, you can try to change those people's minds, but it's a hard task.
And so in all of this, in all these things that you do, I want to know where social media fits in. Like how are you using social media to further this cause and amongst others that you do, like along with veganism and so on?
I mean, snakes have a lot of viral potential, I think. If there's a ton of videos going around about snakes and like people herping, catching snakes, or doing whatever, there's a lot of misinformation out there too. But I don't think anybody is indifferent about snakes. They either like think they're really cool and they're fascinated, or, maybe they're scared, but they're still like fascinated by them, or they like, are very scared and absolutely hate them. But there's nobody who's just like, I don't care about snakes, right? Um, so I think it's good to like make some videos every now and then talking about what are the common snakes found in the area. How should you react if you see a snake? And then for those who are like willing to go the extra mile and want to learn how to like find these snakes based on their behavior and how they live in the wild and stuff like that. The other videos are like herping, where, these were the conditions, this is the landscape I'm herping in, this is how I'm herping, and this is what I found. That kind of stuff.
Okay. And so like basically I structured all the questions in such a way that I wanted to lead to this. I wanted to talk about your startup, is EcoFizz Wildlife. So for those who haven't heard of it, who are, or rather, what is EcoFizz Wildlife and what do you all do?
EcoFizz Wildlife is a startup that me and my friend Vikas started up like a little over a year ago. And we do mostly like wildlife ecotourism, but also a lot of educational awareness. And occasionally we do some research projects and like surveys with the NGOs and the forest department and stuff like that.
I'm curious, what made you realize that there is a market for folks who want to go herping, but like they don't know how to go about this? Like what was that sort of aha moment for you?
So I've always been in research. After I finished my undergrad and before I went for my master's, I was working for 2 years at Agumbe. My job was to like track king cobras, but that was like my day job. And then I would come back to the research station. I would do like my own night walks and all that stuff because we're living in the jungle anyway. I'm not going to just sit there. So anybody who happened to visit the station, I would take them along on my walks. And this wasn't like part of my job or anything. This is just something I was doing for fun. And I really enjoyed like taking people on walks and pointing out animals and showing them like this is what it is, and like seeing the learning happening in real time, them experiencing this new world that they didn't know existed. And like, the snakes are just chilling. They're just like sitting on a branch or like, moving on the ground or whatever. And then people are like, how come it's not attacking us or whatever? So if this is what like normal people believe about snakes, that they're like out to get you, and, such mystery and stuff surrounded about like how snakes live. And then all of that changes when you actually show them snakes is doing normal things in the wild. That whole experience kind of like opened my mind to doing this full time. And when I was in the US, I have a lot of herper friends there who really wanted to visit India and see all of the snakes here. So they said, hey, can you lead a tour for us? So before we even started the company, we had a few tours lined up of my American friends coming to visit India. So once we ran those, we're like, okay, the tourism side of like, we know how to herp, we know how to find snakes, and the whole hospitality side and the logistics side of planning a trip and all this stuff we learned on the job over there. And we're like, let's just do this full time. This is fun. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna join you guys at some point.
Yeah. Hope you do.
Tell me about your like awareness is thing. So like say you meet someone on the fence. Like I think there are some folks who are like so determined. This is like I do this informally. Every person I try to meet, I'm trying to convince them that these creatures are harmless. And so if you meet someone on the fence, what is it that you say to them to get them over the line? I think that's the ultimate goal of all of us, like us nature folks. And so how do you convince someone who is convincible but not quite there yet?
You're talking about convincing them to get over their fears of snakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if I have an opportunity to, I would try to like show them a snake in like real life and say like, hey, look at this. It's not chasing you. It's not harming you. Walk towards it, see what the snake does. It's going to move away from you. Like, you know, if that opportunity exists, I think like the hands-on in the field experience, there's nothing that comes close to that. But otherwise, you can talk about your experiences, talk about, how like snakes aren't out to bite you, whatever, right? And there's so many videos out there that you can show people of like, a snake just chilling and doing its thing. And then the person approaches, the snake just flees, goes away. So the only reason like a snake would bite is if you go and like step on it or grab it or do something to harm it. And it's got no escape mode. And yeah, I think there's ways to convince people of that. I don't know.
Okay, and okay, so now we're approaching the last few questions, and this is you cannot give a cop out answer to this question. Okay, you're gonna have to name something. What is your favorite species? And you cannot say, oh, all of them are great. You'll have to name one of them.
I'd say my favorite species are the ones that I haven't seen yet. And then once I see them, it's no longer my favorite species. So for a long time, I was targeting a callback spit viper in the Northeast, right? So 2 years ago, I did a trip there and we failed at finding it. This year, like I've been thinking about that snake for the whole year and like doing all my research about the snake. This year we went on the first day that we like actually looked for it with a dedicated effort. We found two of them. So, that if you'd asked me this question like last year, I would say that is my favorite snake because I'm focused on that at that time. Right now, I have some goals of some snakes I want to see, like maybe the Himalayan lancehead, which is Protobothrops callback. Protobothrops himalayanus. And then other snakes in Thailand and stuff like the blue coral and other things. So basically my favorite snake is whatever I am hunting for at the present point in time. And then it no longer is my favorite snake after that.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, okay, this is the last question. I think I end all these interviews with one question, and you can take this however you'd like. If you had access to billboards all across the world for a day, just for a day, what is one message you'd put over there?
I don't know, man. That's a good question.
You can take your time. There's no hurry.
Probably something along the lines of encouraging people to go out and, experience wildlife firsthand instead of just like watching videos and reading about it or whatever, as well as just like going and hanging out with animals. Animals are cool as hell. So I don't know the
Experience
exact
wildlife.
message. Yeah.
Experience wildlife firsthand. Let's say that. I think those
Go,
three
go
words.
touch some grass, I think. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, cool, man. Well, Yatin, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.